Hello everyone, welcome to my book club series. This is book club number 21, I think it is. We're at number 21 right now. Come on in, we're talking about a radical awakening and some of the themes in a radical awakening that could awaken you. So here's the cover of the book, but if you can't read it, here it is. A Radical Awakening. You know, this is the book I just wrote. It's out there in the world and it is gaining a momentum. So the main premise of this book is that we are fundamentally disconnected to who we truly are because as children, either through great neglect and abandonment or through subtle decimations of our spirit, we learn to wear a mask. Because our parents' ways, expectations, and fantasies were so strong that they superimposed their wishes and their desires for us onto us. And because we didn't have a chance to flourish or breathe or grow according to our ways, we began to adopt the ways that allowed us to survive with them. So if we needed to people please, that's what we did. If we needed to become angry and rebellious, that's what we did. If we needed to become super achievers, then that's what we did. So this creates a fundamental disconnect within us. I wrote this book mainly for women, a radical awakening mainly for women, to rediscover their authentic self, the self that they left behind in childhood. So depending on our temperament, we either became givers or controllers or takers. Givers are the victims, the martyrs, the empaths, the saviors. The controllers are the helicopter perfectionists, the passive-aggressive people who need control, or the shield, the ones who control their emotions to such a high degree. And the takers are the princesses, the divas, and those who remain as children. I talk about this. I'm talking about the book, A Radical Awakening, and I'm talking about the different subtypes that we have that I talk about in part 2 of this book. So the many faces of the ego, right? So buy the book if you want to know what your particular face of the ego is. Now, once these faces are adopted, they are like the skin we wear. They are the air we breathe. They are the fish, the water that wets the fish. It is everywhere. It is hard to see that we are in that role because that's all we now come to know. So how to break the role, right? Really difficult. First, you have to really become aware that you are in the role. And because you're in the role and creating patterns that uphold the role, it's really hard to get out of the role. Because now we recruit others to be part of our theatrics. So I was a bleeding empath. Maybe I still am a little bit, but I'm recovering. Because I was a bleeding empath, I recruited people who were takers. Because I was such a giver, I had to recruit narcissistic takers around me who then betrayed me or took money from me or took my life, my energy, because I was an empath. So it's not all the empath's fault or all my fault, but this was the dynamic I created and I kept waiting for the other to stop taking. I didn't realize, I need to stop giving. That didn't connect to me till I began to understand my role. So in this book, A Radical Awakening, I talk about the different roles we take. So if you've been, if you've been a shield is someone I describe in the book as someone who has covered up their feelings. And they don't enter their feelings, they enter their intellect. They use the arsenal of their intellect like a machine gun to keep people from connecting to them. So they're very much like lawyers, defense attorneys when they talk to you. You know, those people who you're like, why am I in court? Like, hello, what did I do? You said this, and you said that, and you said 2, and now you're saying 4. And the whole discussion goes amok because you're freaking talking about facts when you should be talking about feelings. So if you've been a shield all the time, you keep people away, okay? But you're in the shield, lawyer, defense, attack mode, and you keep people away. You keep people away, they stay away, or they get frustrated with you, and then they go away. And then you're like, see, good, I was a shield. Or if you've been, in the book I talk about the princess. The princess is somebody who has decided that she's going to wait. She's going to wait for Prince Charming to come, right? So she keeps sitting on her ass, keeps waiting. No one comes, so she keeps waiting. Or the child archetype. The child archetype is the one who's always wanting to be cheerful because they don't want to create conflict. So they're always sweet and pleasing and agreeable because they don't want conflict, right? So because they're always avoiding conflict, right? And because they're always sweet and pleasing, they never face the conflict to grow up. They keep that dynamic. And if they were to create conflict, the other one will leave them. So they're like, I better keeping my sweet face of the child. So in this book, I tell you harsh truths about your roles. When you begin to recognize your roles, then only you can dare to go, oh my goodness, there, I'm doing it again. I'm doing it again. Right? I began to notice my sickness when I began to pass by bus stops. If it was raining and I was passing a bus stop, I would slow down like a stalker because I wanted to give them a ride. Or when my client, I talk about in my book, her car broke down in the session, I drove her home. I wanted to pay for the tire replacement. And when I told my supervisor looked at me like, is something wrong with you? And I was like, what is wrong with me? Well, he's like, okay, you cannot go around saving everybody. Okay, what is going on with you? So when I began to notice my sickness, that I wanted to be in everybody's business and rescue everybody, I was in a trauma because I'm like, I don't know what else to do. What are we supposed to do? Just watch people go down the spiral? So I decided to get a PhD in clinical psychology. So I could legit help people and get paid for it. So you can do that. You can legit become something and turn your sickness into a career. That's what I did. No, I'm kidding. Because even in the career, I'm sick. And I had to really learn to create the boundaries, yeah? And I'm still learning. So the first step is to recognize who it is you are and to recognize your pattern. And it's really hard for people to own it, right? They will not own it. They'll be like, oh, I'm a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But they're not like, you know, I'm that, I'm that, I'm that. And I have to work on my issues. So when we begin to see the pattern, now we can begin to spot the pattern. When you begin to spot it in action, now you have to do the reverse. You have to do the antidote. So first you have to zip it and not say anything. And then look at the pattern and go, what was I avoiding? What was I resisting? What am I afraid of? And then you have to do the antidote. It's not easy, but after a few months, years of doing it, you will be a new person. Hallelujah. There is light at the end of the tunnel, but it involves heartache, 100%. It involves letting go of relationships. And that is the heartache because we get attached to the relationship. We love the relationship. We have memories in the relationship. How do we leave the relationship? It's a huge, huge, huge price to pay. You're like, damn, Dr. Shefali's book, I wish I'd never read the book. I wish I was just my old self. But the old self is the unconscious self. The new self is going to be more liberated. But the new self needs to enter new relationships. And it's really hard to let go. It's really hard to say, this person or this thing is not good for me anymore. But part of our authentic rising and raising is to say, this is not helping us. I'm not for you. I'm not your match. You're not my match. We're not in alignment. We love each other, but we just can't grow together. There's a block, and that's okay, right? We're here to keep growing, and people come into our lives in different eras, different decades, different journeys, different moments, right? And sometimes we have to get off the ship and get onto a new shore and start over. That part is really, really, really the only really scary part. It's so scary you'd rather not change at all. I know. I've been there many times. How to reconstruct a new life, how to recreate from the start. It's really difficult to do. So if that person is your mother, you all the more reason to separate, because that enmeshment to your mother will keep you from flying in other relationships. So we're talking about a radical awakening. It's book club number 21. So at the core of the book is disconnection. Disconnection to what? To yourself. You're not here on earth to be connected to anyone else. You're not here on earth to be connected to your children more than yourself. You're not here to be connected to your partner more than yourself. If you're not connected to yourself, you won't be connected to anyone else. If you're connected to yourself, you will begin to see the other. You see, to connect to yourself means to see your inner child, means to see your pain, means to own your vulnerability. When you own your own vulnerability, only then you can give your partner or your children the chance to be in their vulnerability. If you don't own your own vulnerability, the other will not stand a chance in front of you. Right? So I've been in many relationships with friends, with lovers, where no matter how vulnerable I was being ignored. And it took me a lot of pain. I thought it was me. I thought I'm so stupid. I thought I should say it differently. Oh, I'll just say it this way. Maybe then I'll be heard. I'll just say it that way. Maybe then I'll be heard. But no, if the person you're with is themselves disconnected to themselves, they will not show you any empathy because they don't have empathy to themselves. So all of you, or many of you out there right now, who is feeling that they're being unseen by the other, that they're being taken for granted, that they're not being noticed or validated for their core, that they have to fight to be heard, that every time they have a feeling it's an argument, then they need to step back and realize that it is not the other person's fault either. It's not you to blame, and the other cannot be blamed either, because the other has not been connected to their own pain. And you're not a therapist, so you can't help them connect to their own pain, but that's what they need to do. If you are in a relationship where you feel you're not being connected to, I know that is so hard. You feel unseen, invalidated, misunderstood, unheard. The reason that the other is doing that to you is not because they're assholes and, well, just a little, not because you are not worthy. It's because they themselves don't know what the hell is going on. They are not connected to themselves. So how are you asking, can you please take care of my inner child? They're like, who? What? They have never paid attention to their own inner child. And quite likely their own parents messed with them. So what are we asking? What are we asking for? What are we asking for is this. Release of the other to take care of you. Release the other. It will never get you anywhere except the gutter of the most hurtful pain. The more we expect the other to take care of our inner child, there was a time in my life that I was so tired of being hurt because I wasn't taking care of myself that I began saying to myself, I don't have needs. My only needs are to connect to myself. It became my mantra. I don't have needs. My only needs are to connect to myself. And I did so well. That's how I got through my own radical awakening. I realized that I need to connect to my own needs. I need to expect things from myself. I need to pay attention to my own pain. I need to be my greatest lover. And I need to release the imagination that I have that another can take care of me. Really hard to do because we're always looking for mommy and daddy. But If we get it, yippity-yay. But that is not the end goal. The end goal is always you being whole within yourself. So if you right now are feeling hurt in a relationship, if you're feeling hurt that you're not being seen, that you're not being heard, understand that that person cannot. They are handicapped. They're emotionally disabled. They're emotionally I was going to say a word that we're not allowed to use. They're emotionally regressed. They cannot. So instead of banging on their door and feeling devastated by them, we need to understand they are devastated. They are disconnected. They cannot. Do you know how many mothers I have seen who cannot connect to their children? That's why I do this work. Because the mother is broken, right? So in the same way, how can you expect an adult to take care of you when even mothers can't take care of children, right? Because if you're disconnected to yourself, you can't take care of another human being. You cannot even hear the other person because your own inner child has been activated and your own ego is protecting you. So in this book, I talk about your inner child. I talk about how your ego gets activated and how you can break free. The best part of this book, you guys, for me, is part 5 because it's called Awakening from the Matrix. I'm not going to tell you what it is because many of you haven't gotten there, but it is gorgeous. It is all my spiritual teachings in there and beautifully written, even if I say so myself. And it allows you to awaken and to become whole. So this book is about why we disconnected, how we coped with the disconnection, how it screws us up, how it keeps us disconnected from others, and in a loop, in a constant conveyor belt of needing. Guys, if you right now, who out there right now is needing something from someone that they cannot give? Who right now? Katrina can't put the book down. Leave a review. Leave a review, guys. Who right now is in a relationship where they're not getting their needs met? And they're feeling like, I'm not being seen. And the person is not even trying. Because if the person is trying, it could be because you're blocked, okay? If you see the person trying and it's still not occurring, it could just be you. But where the person is not trying at all, right? Everyone has a relationship like that in their lives. You know why? Because every other person is really asleep. And every other person is wounded and damaged within. So if they are wounded and damaged, we cannot expect them to take care of us. So understand that if you are knocking on an emotional door that does not open, it is time for you to walk away. It is time for you to release the person and say, I understand you. It's not working right now. You cannot meet my needs. It's okay. I will meet my own needs. I will meet my own needs. So if the person is trying and they can't get in, it could be you. If the person is not even trying, it could be them. So at the end of the day, however, we cannot wait for the person to make us feel whole. Walk away from the relationship. It's okay. You don't need to settle, especially if it's not your kid. Your kid, you got to do what you got to do. But besides your kid, you don't need to be unworthy. You don't need to feel small. You don't need to be feeling bad about yourself at all. If the two of you are not on the same wavelength, release. Let it go. It is time to let go. And maybe it'll come back another time. Or maybe it won't, but you will not die. You think you're going to die. You feel like you're going to die. But all that is dying is that desire to have the other person meet you. That fantasy that you met your perfect match or you met your mommy or your daddy. So it's not easy. The first step in the release is to understand that the other person cannot. For their past trauma, for their blocks, for their ego, for their pain, the other person cannot. They cannot. So let it go. Release with compassion. Then the next step is, okay, what needs of yours need to be met by you? Write about it, journal about it, call a friend, call a coach. You got to get some help. Read my book. I have a big blowout summer sale in a few days and you can take many of my courses. You have to take self-help courses. What to do? You need help. And then slowly you begin to meet your own needs, and you come out of this torrential cyclone of wanting somebody else to meet your needs. At the end of the day, all our relationships are here to make us look in the mirror so that we can grow. And grow you will, if you're willing. So I hope you understand it's nobody's fault if your needs are not being met. Nobody's responsible for you. Nobody's here on earth to meet your fantasies. You're going to have to do that for yourself. And that's what my book empowers you to do. It is a book that is going to revolutionize you. I'm telling you it will. It's a powerfully written book because when I wrote it, I was in my best power after coming out of my own wildfire. And I found my truth and I found my voice, and I write with a passion from my heart to your heart. So grab the book and heal yourself. Thank you for joining me for book club number 21. I will see you when I see you.